Well, Doug, I appreciate the time as we approach the halfway point of this regular season. You can really see the Sharks in a multitude of different ways based on what your team has been through. On one hand, hovering around a 500 record through a lot of adversity. On the other hand, hovering near the bottom of the West Division standings. Is it glass half full or glass half empty right now?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I'm aware of all the things that our team has had to go through this year, and I'm really proud of our players and our staff, how they've forged through some of these things that have really been unique. I think there's some things we like. There's some things that the collective, connective culture aspect I think is really good. I think Logan's done a phenomenal job in the leadership group handling not only hockey issues but the pandemic issues and as I say, being on the road for as long as we were and things like that. So that is definitely a half full. Integrating some of the younger guys in while trying to play a new system, while having 14 of the first 16 games on the road was tremendously challenging because you don't get the last change. You don't get any matchups for all those games. And so I give our coaches a lot of credit for that. There's some areas that, we've been inconsistent. There's some games we didn't play well. There's some games that indicated when we get our whole group back and we get into some continuity and rhythm, like the Colorado game, scoring 6 goals to win that game against a really good team. Vegas, we tied up at the end. We beat St. Louis in overtime, and that's without having key players like Tommy Hurdle and Timo Meier in the lineup. So there's a lot of things that we look at that we say we like that, but we have to be better. I'm excited really about the way the schedule sets up now, the next 33 games. So there's things in there we like. There's things we don't. We know that we're kind of in a reset mode. That young players are going to get opportunities, and even that was impacted by the Barracuda. Them being on the road, having games canceled, things like that. So there's a lot of things we're looking forward to that we're now in a position to utilize some of the things that we had hoped to have maybe addressed earlier in the year.
I know Evander Kane's situation keeps cropping up from the business side and the financial side. And I know your team has already put out the statement talking about sticking with him, and you've had no discussions on changing his contract, doing anything like that. But I'm actually more interested in the personal side. Through all of this adversity, what have you seen from Evander Kane, the human being, and the hockey player? How have you seen him show up through all of this?
Well, he's been very focused and coming to the rink, that's his sanctuary, and everybody has life. Everybody has issues that, our players have families, they have friends, they have, this pandemic has taken a toll on so many people and so many issues. We've tried to have our players, to the best of their ability, not worry about what they can't control, and easier said than done. But as far as him playing, coming to the rink, he and Logan have this great chemistry. They've both played extremely well, and that's certainly a positive. But we want all our players to be healthy, to be in a good place, and dealing with some of the things that get magnified when you're going through what everybody in society is going through with the pandemic effect. And so we try to keep people focused on the things that they can control, and Evander's done a good job of that.
I feel like this season, Bob Boughner has benched more players for individual periods than maybe any other Sharks head coach of the past decade. Are you kind of noticing just that trend too, and what's your observation on it?
Well, I think it's the right thing to do. What we're trying to do is, last year, our group has got a little off base as far as the culture, and I think it was because we had so many guys that cared, that weren't used to losing, and that's how they reacted to it, which makes sense to me. That's human nature. We wanted to reestablish how we're going to play. We wanted to make sure that when you're integrating younger players in, that it's set the right way. And I think when you see what, I say Logan and the rest of the leadership group, they accept that. They support each other. They're there for each other, even in games where we might be a few men down, or there might be, it's a high-end team like a Colorado. There's no surrender to this group. And that's really what's probably the most important thing that I would take out of this half of the year, is that this group has really addressed that area.
Erik Karlsson looks like a totally different player after missing just 4 games, and we understand it was another lower body injury, specific to the groin region, and those are tricky to figure out. It's almost amazing that in such a short period of time, he essentially turned his season around. Is it your vision too, or is it your observation that he's a lot faster, he's more aggressive, he's more involved in plays since he's come back, and how did he do that so quickly?
Well, he came into camp, in a good place. You could see that. And this little tweak that he had nothing to do with what was repaired.
Mm-hmm.
He's 100% healthy. I think what happened was he was able to reset himself, and he cares. He's one of the best players in this game. When he's playing the way he is right now, that's what gets everybody excited. He wants to be a dominant player. He wants to be a difference maker. And people forget, when he missed the games last year, it's because of a broken thumb. It was not because of a groin issue. We're not concerned about that area in any way. We think he's in the prime of his career. He's the same age as Peter Angelo and Yossi and Hedman. And I think he's excited about being part of the answers to this team. I think he and Logan in particular can drive the boat for us because they're such high-end players.
I guess the relationship between team defense and goaltending is almost like chicken and the egg. What came first, or which one is the issue as it relates to the other? How do you see your team this season without the puck?
It's a work in progress. There's glimpses of us playing well. There's glimpses of us not. I mean, you got everybody trying to reestablish their games. So that's individually and collectively. And Brody, I can't emphasize enough, when your first 14 games trying to implement a new system with young guys and you don't get the matchup change because you don't have the last change. Every time you put a young guy on the ice and you're playing Colorado, out comes McKinnon and Rantanen and Landeskog.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
So I'm excited about now, from this point on, evaluating our team, how we play. I think getting to this point, getting Tomas Hertl back, getting Timo Meier back, which allows us to push some of the younger guys back into the proper roles. I think, the system and how Boogie wants them to play has been clarified. And now with the way the schedule is, I think we have an opportunity to truly see what our team is, where they're at. I think the young players will benefit from everything they've gone through up to this point. And as I say, the connectivity between our players and the culture is in a good place. So I can start evaluating, looking at our team from this point going forward without any of the stuff that we've had to deal with in the past 2-3 months.
It's been hard to miss Curtis Gabriel. He's only played a handful of games this season, but specifically the last 3, what he's been doing even in warm-ups and the way he's been, present on the ice during games. You haven't had a player like that in quite some time. What are your thoughts about seeing him lately?
Well, I think we have had players like that at points where you want guys to, stand up for themselves and play hard and all that. But there's also a time if somebody's taking liberties with you, the other team has to look and say, you know what, I got to deal with that. And he's a team first guy. He did the same thing with the Barracuda, like the young guys, and we have a very young team there. He made them all feel very comfortable. But he cares about his teammates. He cares about how our team is played or is playing or perceived. And he's done a very good job. But it's funny, he did the exact same thing with the Barracuda, and people notice when he's out there.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, you guys are about 4 weeks away from the trade deadline, and another just uncertain situation because, well, everything's different still, including the fact that the North Division has the quarantine issue. I suppose that could be a factor, that anybody going up there north of the border would have to sit out for 10 to 14 days. How does that impact the overall trade situation? And what does your gut instinct tell you just league-wide about how the deadline might be?
Well, that's a factor. I mean, this whole year, everything is different and unique. You've got protocols. You've got less games after the trade deadline to the end of the year in a compressed season. So everybody has to make their decisions on what's right for their organization. I mean, we made decisions for our organization in the last draft. We decided we had 9 picks, or we ended up getting 9 picks, that we were going to draft players and replenish our system. It's the same thing going forward. I do not foresee us trading our first round pick. We need to use the next draft also to add more players to our group. Now, having said that, if anybody ever came along that fit for now in the future, you certainly explore it. We certainly have some cap space and things like that. But I certainly want to give our own young players the opportunity, now that the Barracuda are back playing on a regular basis, that some of those players certainly have worked hard and deserve the ability to come up and hopefully show us that they can make a difference for us both now and the future.
Sounds like, though, you're thinking that it might be just an overall slower deadline. I don't mean for the Sharks specifically. I mean league-wide, just because of the time after the deadline. There's not much, and maybe some of the friction points.
You never know. I mean, there's teams that might just say, boy, it's a unique year. We're in a position that we might take a swing at it. I think when the pandemic effect on the cap and the business makes things difficult.
Yeah.
So you throw all those in the mix, every team will look at it from their prism and say, you know what, this is how we view it, and this is the decision we're going to make. The quarantining, if a player gets acquired and it's 14 days, which means he doesn't play, he doesn't practice, he doesn't integrate in with the team, that would be a major factor also. So it's unknown. I think you'll see some trades to the depth that they have in past years, probably not.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, just logistically thinking. All right, last thing for you here, Doug. If the playoffs do not materialize for the Sharks in this season, I mean, it's still logistically possible, but it would take quite a haul here in the final stretch to make that happen. If that doesn't take place, what else could happen for your team this year that would make 2021 a positive step forward?
Well, first of all, we will not. There's no way we will stop competing. No matter what phase we're in. And it's funny, the way the schedule's been, we got 33 games left and more at home, and hopefully with Tomas and Timo, and we can stay healthy, you can get back on a run. And we expect our team to compete every single night. The biggest things for us is the growth, not only of our young players, but guys reestablishing their game. Logan has done that. Erik is doing it. You want to see, Tomas and Timo do it, and other players, young players coming in. The biggest thing for me is the culture and the connection between our players, and you're seeing that happen in a big way. That probably is the most important thing, because that you have to have that to be successful. We had that for many years here. It slipped last year, and I do feel it slipped because, for the right reasons, guys cared, they hated losing, and maybe they reacted to it in a way that was more emotional and passionate. It might not have been the right answer. We've got that back on track, and that's the thing that will springboard us back into being where we want to be going forward.
Doug, appreciate the time. If the team does make a run, it would be special under these circumstances.
Thanks, Brody.